Welcome to the Wolf and Bull podcast. I am your friendly neighborhood host, the Wolf. And across from me, I have my lovely, enjoyable, awesome host, who's also my co-host, and I'm fucking this up, but we're going through it. Beowulf. You like the mix? The Irish music mix with the spooky music? Is that scary enough for you? We have a very special episode for you today that does not involve us wearing these masks the entire time. I'm suffocating slowly.
I'm wondering how do people wear these?
How do they murder with them?
These? No, I could not run with this thing on.
No, not at all. They're totally inaccurate.
Although I did once. I used to be in Orange Theory,
Psychotic.
and they made us wear masks while we were on the treadmill.
Psychotic.
But hey, those days are behind us.
We have a very special guest with us today. She's a family friend. She works in the show with us. Her introduction cannot be more exciting. Join me, the Wolf, and Beowulf.
That's me.
In introducing the Sloth.
Wow. Hello,
You know what?
everybody.
We need to do the sound again because it's not coming through all the way. But that's okay. I'll do it in post.
Oh, perfect.
With that being said, I'm taking off this terrible mask. This is terrible. So riff while I take it off. Quick.
Riff. Oh my gosh.
Riff.
Well,
Do the riff.
I'm gonna take it off as soon as you've taken it off
I want
because
to take mine off.
I'm honestly wondering, like, is it Halloween when the Mike Myers mask? Pretty sure that's Halloween, right? How
Yeah.
in the world
Wow.
does that man wear a mask like that while running around murdering people?
He doesn't, because it's made up. Totally made up. It's made up.
There's this hilarious video going around right now at TikTok, Reels, whatever it is. And it's of a young kid at one of these pumpkin patches. And he, she, they, whoever it is wearing a Mike Myers mask and is running on the hay bales, falls over, and like looks like they actually might have hurt themselves.
I've seen
but
this.
then does the slow raise up just like
Yeah.
Mike Myers did.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, so if all of you, if anyone listening or watching missed that because my face was covered by a purge mask, we have a special guest, the Sloth, and her sound is actually quite interesting.
Yes, that is an actual sloth.
That's an
Nice.
actual sloth. Yeah, I had to go deep into the research area of Google to find that and pull it.
I did not know sloths made noises.
Yes.
Right.
That's
Well,
the noise
I
they
don't
make.
have headphones, so I can't actually hear it.
It's like.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
Here,
you don't
so
have headphones.
I don't know what the noise
Let me
is.
give you a reenactment.
Yeah, and then there's a porpoise in the background that I've distorted to sound... Wait, no, it's an actual sloth. What am I saying? It's a real sloth.
Yes, it's a sloth noise.
But yeah, just a quick reminder for our listeners and for our viewers, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, if you could have gotten any enjoyment at all out of that very strange introduction, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram, a subscription on YouTube. We come out with episodes every week. And if you're asking yourself, why should I do that? We have wonderful content that we talk about that is in depth. It's gritty. It's disturbing. Like this episode today.
Very, very disturbing.
Very disturbing. So
most disturbing.
yeah, 5-star review on any major listening podcasting platform will be absolutely appreciated. But yeah, so how's everybody doing?
I'm good. You know, it is quite weird recording without headphones on, but you know, I like it. I feel a little free.
It's like you're part of
like
the
my
club.
thoughts are going to be really exploding today because I don't have any constricting thing on my head.
You don't have to hear our voices loud and clear.
No, I just have to
Read our lips.
It's like I'm almost alone in this room, in this recording studio, on my own. Just my thoughts.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
But I'm doing
analysis.
good otherwise. Yeah.
How is our resident guest, the newest guest to the show? How's she doing?
I am doing just great. You
Yeah.
know, it's the start of the week. It actually rained really hard this weekend, so
Okay.
I feel nice, refreshed,
Very nice.
and cleansed.
Did you just stand outside in the rain?
Yes, the entire weekend.
Just
Sounds like something a sloth would do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, this is the time where I open the ceremonial beer because that's what I do now. I drink alcohol while we do the show.
How are you doing, Wolf?
I don't think he wants to answer that. I really
Drinking
don't.
a beer at 4 p.m. on a Monday. So how are you
Yeah.
doing?
Drinking a beer at 4 p.m. on a Monday.
All right.
But yeah, Sloth, before we jump into the show, we should give our listeners some insight into who you are. One word.
Oh,
I'm
great.
just kidding. No, you don't need to do that. Anything about yourself you want them to know does not have to be long. You can keep it quick. You can make it a full...
Episode?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. I am the media liaison for the Wolf and Bull and also a couple other companies. I am actually Beowulf's sister, which makes... Sorry, I had to break the news
What?
to you. That also makes me the wolf's sister-in-law.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Well done. Very
We're
nice.
all about nepotism in this studio.
I'm in college, if that has anything to do with anything.
Very nice.
Yes.
Very nice.
Well, I have to play that music again, but I'm not going to put the mask on because it was just way too much. I won't be able to read anything. So we're going to jump into the monologue, and we're going to intro our viewers and our listeners into what the topic is today. So prep yourself because it's going to be a crazy one.
Spooky.
Very, very spooky.
I'm so tempted to play the music that's not spooky right now because it would be hilarious. I have that right now. I do.
I bet
have
you
that.
do.
All right. Well, the world is a hauntingly magical place, full of wonders, spectacular stories, and the mysteriously unknown. For as much as we claim, we don't know nearly as much as we think that we do. In a very recent past, instead of video games, movies, toys, and social media, society would entertain itself in the indulgence of fictional and sometimes very real stories. Through the musty pages of an old, tattered book, many an individual found themselves enraptured with the melodic notes of plot, setting, characters, tone, and theme. In the distant past, our ancestors told stories, not only to entertain, but also to build culture around. Stories, for the most part, have played a pivotal role in the human experience. This is way too loud. Today, things are not that much different. Stories exist, people enjoy them, and the world is still a hauntingly magical place, albeit, due to technology, smaller. Despite technological changes, one thing that remains true is everyone's appreciation for a good story. One of the largest companies in the world before they became evil built a legacy and a lot of their theme parks around many of these beloved stories. And a lot of them, incredibly, are very disturbing from the Brothers Grimm. Now, despite their disturbing nature, they are still wildly popular today. Now it's spooky season, spoopy season as we call it here on the Wolf and Bull, a time to celebrate the summer's end, free candy from strangers that you can legally take, and the original Celtic holiday, the festival of Samhain, a holiday that oddly enough was preserved by the church when the festival of Samhain was Christianized in the 9th century, paving the way for the supposedly pagan holiday celebrated today, known as Halloween. I know, controversial. We brought in the Sloth specifically to chat about the stories of the Brothers Grimm and the oddness that those stories and other fairy tales have provided on today's culture. Do you like how I ended right on time? Do you like that?
That was
Couldn't
amazing.
hear the music.
It's perfect.
But I bet listening to this now, as all of our listeners are, is they're just stunned by the timing on that.
I didn't plan it at all.
Samhain. That sounds like my holiday, seeing I am a
We're both Celtic.
Celtic princess.
Yeah, don't steal my heritage.
I think I'm Celtic too.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I
This
think-
is all. It's not just about Beowulf.
Listen,
okay?
my introduction is the Irish tune.
You might be wearing green, but that
I
doesn't make
am
you any
wearing
more
green,
Celtic. You might
as
have red
usual.
hair.
I'm very, very Molly Malone today. You know?
Who's Molly Malone?
Please tell us.
Molly Malone. Oh
Is that
my
someone from
gosh.
Harry
Let me
Potter?
school. Harry Potter.
I don't know. That sounds like a...
Molly Malone. Well, listen, I don't know much about Molly Malone except she's a statue in Dublin with large breasts.
Oh, just so you know, he's playing the Irish music.
Well, it's the statue in Dublin, and every time we're there, we walk past her. Beautiful statue.
Every time
Large.
you're there, you've been there twice.
We've been there 4 times.
Oh.
I'm more
Okay,
cultured than
Get on
you
our
are.
level.
Excuse
We're
you.
well traveled.
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
let's get to the Grimms. Okay,
we?
yeah, I
We
think
can.
we should.
We've got time. It's only been 11 minutes.
exactly.
12
Spooky
was the
season.
intro.
So yeah, I don't know the details of what we're going to talk about today,
Oh,
but I
know
have heard that the Grimm stories get a little wild.
As someone who dove into part of the research today, because we're only covering a handful of stories today, specifically 4, I believe. With that being said, not every single Grimm's fairy tale was disturbing, but a lot of these fairy tales come from very disturbing areas. Now, interestingly, the Brothers Grimm did not write all of these stories. They didn't all. They collected and basically coalesced a lot of different universal fairy tales that have been around for quite a long time, specifically because of the time period that they were in, which we will jump into right now.
Okay.
All right, there's 2 brothers, 2 of them, not 3, not 4. There's 2 brothers. Both of them referred to lovingly today as the Brothers Grimm. First brother's name was Jacob Ludwig Karl Grimm. Interesting name. And
Germany, right?
Very, very
yes,
German.
Yes, very German. And Wilhelm Karl Grimm was the second one.
Very German names, both of those.
Yes, they were both born in the 1780s, so a long time ago.
Great time.
Yeah. A lot of
Amazing.
a lot of dying then. Now they were German brothers, we just said, and they excelled in academics, philosophy, cultural research, lexicography, and they are best known as authors. Now, almost every single person has probably heard of some of these stories that we have all read personally.
Yeah.
I had an aneurysm there. I was thinking about the stories that we were going to talk about, and I just had a moment. Now, together, the Grimm's brothers published folklore and popularized the stories that they collected from all over the world. Their first collection of folk tales, children's and household tales, began publication in 1812.
Can I just say something?
Of course.
I think that is a very bad name because none of these stories are meant for children's ears.
Well, you have to remember what type of kids were alive back then, right?
They were hardened criminals by the
They-
time they
Yeah.
were like 8.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
then-
worked in factories.
These stories.
Sweatshops were like a rite of passage.
See, I read the Grimm fairy tales. I made it my entire personality from elementary school to middle school, and that explains who I am today. That it shows that it's not for children.
Should we have sent you to a sweatshop? Should you go be
Maybe.
making some Nike shoes right now?
I might.
Not on topic. But no, yeah, and I agree. These stories are definitely not for kids, but they can be enjoyed by children if their parents choose to be irresponsible by watching Disney. Now, they spent their formative years, the Brothers Grimms, in a town called Hanau, which was in the Landgraviate of Hesse-Kassel, which was the state of the Holy Roman Empire in Germany, which lasted from 1567 to 1803, strangely enough, because that was a long time ago, and you would think that it wouldn't have
I think
lasted
a lot
that
of
long.
people forget that the Holy Roman Empire
Lasted
was
a long time.
way up there.
It really was. Now, their father's death in 1796, when Jacob was 11 and Wilhelm was 10, caused great poverty for the family and affected the brothers many years after. Both brothers attended the University of Marburg, where they developed a curiosity about German folklore, which grew into a lifelong dedication of collecting German folk tales. Now, most of what we're talking about today are German folklore, but there are some that are not. Now, not every fairy tale is German folklore, and not every Disney movie, specifically the cartoons, is based off of German folklore. There are a lot of them that are actually popularized outside of Brothers Grimm, prior to Brothers Grimm, and that have been around for a long, long time. I mean, like hundreds of years. Very interesting, like specifically when it comes to like, Beauty and the Beast and Sleeping Beauty and Snow White. These are very old tales across very many different cultures, which further proves my suspicion that aliens are responsible for almost everything.
I just think it's interesting how a lot of these stories do transcend different cultures in the sense of like
Almost in the same exact way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now this is in the new age. What was the movie we watched recently that was like a Japanese anime, but it was like Beauty and the Beast version? Obviously, Belle. Yeah. So obviously that's 2022 standards, but they had like a spin on it.
Yeah.
And I was watching it. I didn't even realize at first that it was based on Beauty and the Beast until like halfway through. I was like, wait a second, what the heck? But it's very cool.
Yeah, it is. And so the popularization of these stories really came into existence because obviously they've been around for a long time, but there was a resurgence in the 19th century during the Romantic period. Now, specifically 19th century Europe. Now, an interest in folklore revived traditional folk stories, which, according to the Brothers Grimm, actually represented a pure form of national literature and culture. So, yes, they were nationalists. According to Wikipedia, yeah, get over it, people. With the goal of researching a scholarly treatise on folk tales, they established a methodology for collecting and recording folk stories that became the basis for folklore studies. So, Brothers Grimm were very, very impactful when it came to actually not only cultivating these stories, but making them popularized again. Between 1812 and 1857, the Brothers Grimm collection of stories was revised many times, growing from 86 stories to more than 200. So this means bringing in new stories and adapting them and making them more,
Digestible.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, yeah. Now, during this time, the brothers also wrote a collection of well-respected Germanic and Scandinavian mythologies. In 1838, they began writing a definitive German dictionary, which they did not finish in their lifetimes, unfortunately. So they did a whole lot of writing, a whole lot of collecting, but the dictionary just couldn't finish it.
Lame.
I can't speak German, but I've seen how long those words are. Makes a lot of sense. So much of the work from the Brothers Grimm originally was incredibly violent and incredibly cruel. But their collected folk tales have endured quite well with the popularization of stories and characters from the likes of Disney, Lot Rheinischer, and even the Nazi Party.
Oh, that's
Interesting.
Little buggers got their grubby little hands on everything, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did.
So we'll be chatting about a few of these stories. But with that being said, what do both of you, outside of your detailed knowledge, because this episode idea was from the Sloth.
Yes.
Outside of the Sloth's detailed knowledge, what do you guys know about some of these stories?
Well, I thought I knew, and then we just went all over that, and now I think maybe I know about some stories that aren't even attributed to the Grimms, or they are attributed, but they aren't really associated. It's sort of just through word of mouth telephone over the past, every fairy tale that Disney ever put their hands on is a Grimm's fairy tale.
It's not.
Right. So, but when you say Grimm's fairy tale, I immediately think of, Cinderella, Snow White, all the princesses, really. Mm-hmm. And from what I know, Disney made it so nice, but really she gets her feet cut off. And then this one, she gets violated by the prince and then has twins and blah, blah, blah. And it's like a bunch of crimes.
Yeah.
That's all I really know about the basics. Like I know the whole Little Mermaid one. I don't even know if that's attributed to Grimm's.
It's not.
See, exactly. And then the Little Mermaid one, she turns into suds at the end.
Foam.
Yeah,
Sea
which
foam.
by the
Yeah.
way, I think I mentioned this. This is a two-parter, so we're going to go over. We only have a few handful of these, so we're going to go over some of those in the next episode. Because we didn't touch on some of the we touched on some of the big ones, but not like some of the really big ones. We left those out, like Little Mermaid. I wanted to do that, but it's not specifically attributed to.
Well,
Grimm.
right, but those are just some of the more popular ones I've heard in passing. But then also, again, they've been made more digestible, you say, by Grimm's taking a folklore tale and making it unified so that people can actually read it rather than just remember it. But then also Disney later on, 200, 300 years later, whenever this was, 17.
Yeah, about 200 years later. Yeah.
They made it romanticized and kid-friendly. And some may argue in a lot of ways it could have stunted generationally a lot of people into believing something that isn't realistic. And that's a whole other podcast that might be a fun one to tackle. But as a Disney princess fan, which I am, I can totally see that being an argument one could make. But yeah, that's the general things I know about the Grimm's fairy tales.
Well, I know a lot about the Grimm's fairy tales, but before I read all of them, I just thought that they were really, really disgusting and violent stories that Disney got a hold of and pretty much made it so that it has a meaning to it, because most of the Grimm fairy tales just have like the meaning at the end is
You'll all die.
You get what you're coming.
You get what's coming to you.
You get what's coming to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I thought before I read all of them.
Yeah. So obviously, as everyone watching and listening, if you've seen our other episodes, we are all wonderfully big fans of Disney. At least me. I'm totally a big fan. So there's a few different ones that I want to touch on. One of them specifically is Cinderella, and I'll start with a very interesting set of prose. That I'm going to read very seriously. Cinderella, Cinderella. Night and day, it's Cinderella. Make the fire, fix the breakfast. Wash the dishes, do the mopping. And the sweeping, and the dusting. They always keep her hopping. She goes around in circles till she's very, very dizzy. Still they holler, keep a busy Cinderella.
I was singing that the whole
Cinderella, Cinderella.
night and day. It's Cinderella.
Yeah, well, that's not how we do this on this
little
show.
mice.
We're not a musical show. We're a very serious show. Always.
I know that whole song by heart.
So
Yes.
what
With
can we
the
dive
tune.
in? Can we dive into the psychology of that one section, please?
The
How
psychology.
does it make you
of
feel?
Well, this may be very.
Watch what you say.
Oh well, no. It's how does it make you feel? How does it make me feel? Well, I also. Some people may think this is crazy, but this is just me, and no harm, no foul to it. I actually quite like to clean. I'm someone who just likes a tidy space, tidy area. That's just me, and like I totally get that some people that's just not their thing, but it's something that's very. I don't know.
I'm disappointed.
In some way therapeutic for me. I honestly, like when I'm feeling stressed out, cleaning is a way for me to take control of a situation. Maybe that's a better way to put it. So when I hear stuff like that, it doesn't insult me, but I can totally understand why some people would maybe be upset hearing about this mouse telling a lady to
It's very
dust and
masochistic mouth.
clean.
Misogynistic mouse.
Misogynistic Gus over here.
Yes.
With
No, that's
all of-
before Gus got found.
Jacques. And what's the other? What,
I have to
wife's name?
admit-
Tracy or
Mouse
something like that.
Tracy and Jacques.
Tracy and
Tracy Morgan.
No, I
Trixie.
Is that what you're
Sounds like
asking
a
me
stripper
about?
name.
The song, how it makes me feel that way?
Sure. Whatever you think.
Oh, well,
You just exposed yourself, so
well, also nostalgia
yeah.
because that's a very popular little song by the mouse Jacques.
Well,
From the
that's-
Disney movie Cinderella that I grew up watching.
That's
and
the
loving.
first
So-
song you think of whenever you hear Cinderella.
Hey, so Sloth,
Cinderella, night and day.
patriarchy opinions aside, what do you think of this song?
I think it gives me really big nostalgia too. But I actually can't believe that we were raised in the same house because I hate cleaning. I don't know where you got that from, but yeah, I mean, it gives like a weird happiness to someone
Maybe rage.
being worked.
Rage gives you rage.
Yeah, sure.
Deep down
It
inside.
gives me a lot of rage.
Anger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes total sense. Yeah. Hot take. Well, many of us know Disney's Cinderella, but do many of us know the real story? I didn't, because I don't spend my time reading children's books. I'm an adult.
I do.
Well, good for you.
Take
You were
that.
never a child once.
Never ever. I was born a 6'2", 205 man.
I feel so sorry for
Don't even go
your
there.
mother.
Yes. That must have really hurt.
Yikes! But yeah, with that being said, the oldest known oral version, so the story, stop. The oldest known oral version of Cinderella is the ancient Greek story of Rhodopis, a Greek courtesan living in the colony of Naucratis in Egypt, whose name meant rosy cheeks. Sorry I couldn't pronounce that correctly.
Okay.
It's just an old name.
Rosy cheeks.
This was recorded by Greek geographer Strabo. Quote unquote. The Egyptians tell the fabulous story that when she was bathing, an eagle snatched one of her sandals from her maid and carried it to Memphis. And while the king, the city of
Memphis, Egypt.
and while the king was administering justice in the open air, whatever that means, the eagle, when it arrived above his head, flung the sandal into his lap, and the king, stirred both by the beautiful shape of the sandal and by the strangeness of the occurrence, sent men in all directions into the country in quest of a woman who wore the sandal.
Can I give a hot take?
1 second. And when she was found in the city of Naucratis, she was brought up to Memphis and became the wife of the king. So she was stolen.
I just think that the king had a foot fetish. I'm going to be honest.
He might have.
I mean,
A sandal fetish, maybe?
Yeah.
Just
Did
a room
the
full of
king-
sandals.
I think he just had a foot
Did the
fetish.
king smell the sandal?
He might have. Or he might have seen, like, you know, like the little dirt marks. And
He
like,
was so
ooh,
in-
her toes look amazing.
he gets the sandal and he's like,
Yeah.
it smells like mahogany and foot sweat.
Listen, I know a lot of the Egyptians were very like luxurious people, but the reality is it's the desert still, and you're wearing sandals and walking around outside.
Foot fungus. And
Can
Well, I'm not
we-
even thinking foot fungus. I'm just
jam.
thinking they must be dirty.
Can we
Plus
really-
an eagle? What, an eagle is
Yes.
carrying it?
Yes. Can we really be fabulous in a desert? Let's all ask that question. Can someone really
I
be
try
fabulous?
every day. I try every
that makes
day.
two
this
of us.
is not the desert.
Yes,
not.
it is.
Yes, it is.
With that being said, the Brothers Grimm version is a teensy-weensy little different than this. It's not in Egypt. It takes place in Germany. And it's
Shocker.
also not written in the 1300s. So,
Wow.
the tale is called Aschenputtel, the Little Ash Girl, or Cinderella, which is the English translation. Now, this version is much more violent than that of Charles Perrault's and Disney's, in that Cinderella's father has not died, and the two stepsisters mutilate their feet, specifically cut off their toes and their heels, didn't know you could do that, to fit in the golden slipper. This gives them away because Cinderella's doves notice the stepsisters' feet profusely bleeding and tell the prince about it.
I don't know how they were walking.
Well, he was apparently blind at the time because he didn't see that their feet
Yeah.
were bleeding profusely.
Or that they were limping. Probably could barely walk.
they were hyped
without
up on
toes.
hyped up on meth.
Yeah.
Meth and Molly.
Must have been.
Now, there's no fairy godmother in this version with the Brothers Grimm, but rather help comes from a wishing tree that the heroine planted on her deceased mother's grave when she recites a certain chant or when her tears land on the tree. So
Cinderella was a witch.
when she's skydiving, she starts crying because the wind's blowing up into her eyes, and the tears fall at a velocity, escape velocity. It's really, really high, and it lands on the tree, and that's when the powers of magic come through this tree. So there's no fairy godmother. The tree itself, dare I say, plants.
It's like Rapunzel.
It's like
Tangled.
it's like Mark Wahlberg's renowned and beloved movie, The Happening.
Or
Plants
it's like
have all
the
the
Giving
power.
Tree.
Or the Giving Tree. That
Giving
movie,
Tree.
that book makes me cry.
I've
have
not
that
read
book.
it. But I
What?
know the gist of it.
You can't. You cannot. You
The Giving Tree?
haven't seen American Psycho yet. We talked
I
about
haven't
this on
either.
our sister podcast, Hot B. Well, you're young. You have an excuse. We're both young, actually. Yikes.
Oh, I'm not young.
I'm in trouble. With that, she knows I didn't mean it that way. With that being said, you can't. The Giving Tree. This is like an old book. It's like
The
a
Giving
60s
Tree
book. It's from the 60s.
was a book that my 6th grade teacher, who tragically passed away after I had left his class, but shortly thereafter, it was a really tragic passing. That was his favorite book. And then to memorialize him, my elementary school actually painted a huge mural of the Giving Tree on a wall.
And that's the end of the show.
now we're
We've hit an
all
all-time
very
low.
sad.
I'm going to go cry.
So
in
let's
the
talk
corner.
about the cutting off our toes to fit it into a golden slipper.
Yeah. So
I mean, if
obviously,
it called for getting that bank,
what did they use?
I'd call my toes. I'd cut my toes off.
That's the ultimate gold digger move, really. Cut off your
I
limbs.
mean, to marry a prince,
A
get all
mutilated
that-
foot can fetch a lot of money online these days.
Big old
Exactly.
OnlyFans out there. Just look at my
Just
foot.
show like half your toes.
What has happened to our society?
Nothing that hasn't happened before.
It's just capitalism, really. I mean, if you got an
Well-
ugly toe and someone's willing to pay $50 for a photo of it, get your
that
coin.
bank.
Well, what's funny is the story gets worse. For their deception and their cruelty and their hatred towards Cinderella over the years, Cinderella turned out to be a very loving and forgiving sister, or stepsister, or slave, I guess.
Yeah.
The stepsisters inevitably suffered the very bloody and terrible punishment of having their eyes pecked out by doves.
Yep. I love that it was doves. Like, you know,
where
doves
the-
are meant to be the purity and all that, but no, you get your eyes pecked out by
Covered
them.
in blood.
Where's Gus Gus?
I
Where's
think Gus Gus
the
was
mice?
part of
I have to admit,
the
I have
methed
no
out
idea.
Cinderella
I have no idea what
mind.
you're talking about. I don't know who Gus Gus is.
you.
the
don't-
mouse from Cinderella.
Have you ever
I've
watched
seen
Cinderella?
it twice in my
Oh
life.
my
I've seen it
gosh.
twice.
It's the fat mouse.
The fat mouse, Gus
Am I allowed to
Gus.
say fat?
Are you allowed to say
I don't
fat?
know. I could like get canceled or something.
Oh, you are such a Gen Zer. Oh my gosh.
Yo, dude, the thick and quick crowd is not going to come out here
Well,
and cancel you.
The
Okay,
Gus Gus, he's the big one. And he wears the crop top, and he's like,
Oh, yeah. We're gonna stop there.
Okay.
Yes, I remember Gus.
No,
Gus,
that's his voice.
Suspect. Well, there's a reason why we're gonna stop because that you could get canceled for that one. So yeah, very interesting. Obviously, not a story for children, specifically on the foot fetish debauchery and the destruction. But I do have to say, to the Sloth's point, mad gains, dog. Keep getting that cheddar.
Yes.
Wow.
Get that bank.
Cheddar bank coin.
No one says cheddar anymore because everyone's lactose intolerant.
Clap those cheeks. Get that gold.
That
They say they're lactose intolerant, which may be true, but they still enjoy that cheese.
Well, what's confusing is we're all about tolerance here. Why not just try harder?
Try harder to enjoy the cheese.
Tolerate the cheese.
If
Do
it
your
gives
part.
if it gives you IBS, who cares? Just
Do your part.
Do your part and have a charcuterie board.
Do your part.
You deserve it.
Yeah.
eat string cheese.
Poison
Just do
intolerance, just tolerate the poison.
The more you take it in, the more your body will be like, this is just my life now. Just ingesting pounds of cheese.
What do you think I'll tell myself when I start my foot fetish channel on OnlyFans?
All right.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
let's
Yep.
just move on.
Thanks, alcohol. So obviously, the next person I think we should talk about is Sleeping Beauty. I've always
this is my
found
favorite.
I've found Cinderella to be a basic B.
Yep.
She's basic.
She is.
She is.
You know what?
Valley Girl.
Live action Cinderella Disney came out in 2015 or 16 or something.
Not good.
Oh, the Ellie girl. Isn't her name like Ellie something?
Not good.
No, I don't know.
Was not good.
You
I
are
didn't-
crazy. It was
wasn't a
so
big fan.
good.
Terrible.
It was so good.
It was bad.
I didn't really like it.
All the
my
live
I liked
action
her dress.
Both of you straight to jail.
Her dress was pretty.
Both
but
of you straight
to the streets.
jail.
I go to the streets.
To the streets,
Yep.
to jail.
I don't like any of the live action movies.
I don't eat except for Maleficent. I like
even
Maleficent.
hey, look, even Buzz Lightyear.
That wasn't live action.
You fell asleep.
Interstellar was live action, okay?
Oh my gosh.
And you fell asleep. I watched the entire thing. I watched as a 30-year-old man the entire Buzz Lightyear movie by myself. While my wife, commonly referred to by historians as Beowulf, slept on the couch. I turned it on and she was like, "It's gonna be so good." And I sat there and I watched the entire thing.
Yeah, well,
And I was expecting to
you
cry.
turn on movies too late. I'm tired by
It
that
was
point.
7:30.
It's too late.
Hey, my bedtime is 8:30, so don't feel bad.
Yikes!
Don't feel
That
bad.
hurts me.
Use your hours now while you can. You're gonna get to our age and you're gonna be like,
Should be going to bed at like 2.
Oh, I would like to make an
Yeah.
announcement. To any 19-year-old to 20-year-old girls watching,
PSA.
I am looking for friends.
Yikes!
Just so you know.
was so
We're gonna
sad.
have
I just
to,
wanted to advertise that.
We are gonna have to cut that out because that makes me sad.
No.
With that being said, we're going to talk about Sleeping Beauty. Definitely cutting that
me.
out. Definitely cutting that out. So, Sleeping Beauty is a classic fairy tale about a princess who is cursed to sleep for 100 years by an evil fairy to be awakened by a handsome prince at the end.
I wonder how he wakes her up.
Sounds like a game show. A good fairy, realizing the princess would be frightened if alone when awakened, used her wand as well to put every living person and animal in the palace asleep to awaken when the princess does. So for a long time, there was just this giant Airbnb palace where there was 300 to 400 different individuals who were put to sleep. They all slept. People would come and go. Why is everyone asleep? Our country is falling into shambles. The queen and the king have been asleep for hundreds of years. We no longer exist. And that is actually how the fall of the Byzantine Empire occurred. With that being said, very interesting story.
Very.
One that almost every person knows, maybe outside of the Byzantine Empire. I learned that from the History Channel. Earliest known version of Sleeping Beauty was actually found in the narrative of Perse Forest, composed between 1330 and 1344. So a long time ago. And originally it was published by Giambattista Basile. And going forward, I will just refer to him as Basile. I'll refer to him as Basile in his collection of tales titled The Pentamerone, which was published posthumously after Basile, a very, very strange individual, as you'll see soon enough, passed away in 1634.
wouldn't that suck to just have all your stuff published posthumously? Unless you were embarrassed by it, I guess.
Yeah.
He
Like,
should
He should be
embarrassed.
embarrassed.
Oh, he's dead now.
Yeah, he should be embarrassed
Meh.
about it. Now, Basile's version happens to be a tad extreme. So, listener discretion advised. Seriously.
Very.
So, bear with me here, and please interject at any moment if you feel like going, ew, yuck, or giving me some sort of modern-day interpretation of how this is misogynistic, because I agree. In Basile's version, Sleeping Beauty is named Talia, and astrologers predicted that at her birth, there would be a tiny splinter of flax that would curse her, similar to a sewing needle in future versions. The king bans all flax and spinning materials, but the princess passes a peddler woman spinning flax, those darn peddlers, which catches her attention. The princess tries to spin, and then a flax splinter wedges itself under her nail, and she immediately drops dead.
That would hurt. That would really hurt.
Dude.
Yeah.
Under your nail?
Yeah, that would hurt.
You know what I think of every time I hear about things going in the nails? Have you ever watched Lost?
Uh-huh.
Okay. In season 1 of Lost, Saeed tortures Sawyer, and he takes...
With like the wood chip or whatever
he
it
takes
is?
like a palm frond or something, and
Yeah.
he sticks it under his nail. And I remember the first time I saw that back in like
Ooh, that makes
2005
you-
or whenever that show came out. And I was so traumatized. I would have dreams about like getting
splinters under
under your nails.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of that.
That
Fun
remi-
little Lost interjection there.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to plug that show, even in 2022. Love that show.
Got sucky after the
Love
third
it.
season.
Bull's doing Star Trek, you're doing Lost.
The only show I watched in full all the way through no, actually, not true. The only show I've watched all the way through while it was playing, except Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Game of Thrones
Okay.
and Lost are the only two shows I've watched all the way through.
Yeah, they're both
live.
good shows. They're both, well, outside of season 8 of Game of Thrones, they're both good. And the new season, which I haven't decided yet. So now here's where it gets a little bit interesting. Talia, Princess Sleeping Beauty, she is placed in an abandoned country manor by the king, a.k.a. her dad. There's a lot of kings in this one, so please follow me. Years pass, and then a king from another neighboring land who is hunting in the woods happens upon her in the manor, tries to wake her, fails, and then, as most people do, rapes her before returning home. And she's, by the way, at this point in the story, she's dead.
Necrophiliac.
So that happened.
Hey, it's 2022 and Jeffrey Dahmer's all the rage right now. Everyone should be used to that these days,
yeah.
seeing it's popular culture
just
talk.
trying to normalize it.
Yeah.
9 months later, Talia, Sleeping Beauty, still dead, technically asleep, but technically dead, gives birth to twins, Sun and Moon. Those are the names in the story. And fairies place the babies on her breast to suckle, as fairies do. That is, that is the sound. One of the babies sucks the flax splinter out of her finger, and Talia awakens from death.
Wait, flax? Why am I thinking flax as in like flaxseed?
Because flax seeds come from flax.
Whatever. Continue.
I have a question. How did the baby suck it out of her finger when they were sucking on her boob?
These babies were...
They were just like crawling around everywhere?
I've heard this.
or-
I've heard this
very
story before, and
sucky
then
babies.
I heard that one of the babies mistook her finger as a nipple.
Okay, her nipple must have been really long then.
So Sleeping Beauty had long nipples.
Like, long.
That is our hot take.
Yes, Sleeping Beauty had very long nipples. That's what we get from this story.
Yikes. So after the babies, who are oddly performing strange suckling on
Fingers.
various parts of her body, the king who violated her returned sometime later, and of course he's overjoyed to discover his newly found family and the child support payments. He tells Talia, Sleeping Beauty, that he violated her, and according to Basile, their friendship was knitted with tighter bonds. I think Basile might have had a very interesting interpretation of how relationships should be. But of course, I'm calling the kettle black because it's 2022.
Calling the kettle
I was
black.
gonna say, don't say calling the
I
kettle
think
black.
you think you're mistaking.
No, I'm not. Not at all.
Calling the
So
kettle black.
you're
We're trying to popularize this stuff again. But we're not going to go into that topic.
No, but you're saying
you're saying
the kettle.
you've done it.
Oh God, no! Jesus Christ, no,
you
not
did-
at all.
you
That's
didn't
how that
say that
term
right.
goes. I've been
Yeah.
using that term wrong.
Yeah,
for
when you're calling the kettle
years.
black, you're basically accusing someone of something that you
That you've
openly
done.
do.
Shit. No, have not.
You
Glad
said
we
that wrong.
stopped you there.
Yikes. Well, this next part's going to get very funny. Now, the married rapey king stayed with Talia for a bit before returning to his wife, and boom, story ends. Right?
Yay!
No, story doesn't end there. Nope. Rapey king, his wife, so Rapey king's wife, finds out, sends a messenger to the unaware Talia, and Talia sends her kiddos to see their Rapey King dad. The queen of Rapey King orders the cook to roast the children up and serve them to Rapey King for dinner, but the protagonist cook, the only good character in this story, hides the kids with his own family instead, sparing them. He had a heart. The queen then sends for Talia and accuses her of stealing the Rapey King, even though Talia was asleep. A fact that she makes known to the queen. Queen Rapey King, that's her name, doesn't care, and orders Talia to be thrown in the fire, to which Talia responds by doing a slow striptease for the queen. The perfect stalling tactic.
So
Used it plenty of times myself.
was this queen the first bisexual then?
I don't know, but maybe we shouldn't make that assumption.
Okay. Go back to your story.
Going back to the story?
Yeah. Go back.
Yeah, so long story short, the queen wants Talia's jewelry encrusted garments. So Talia makes a big show of TikToking until Rapey King arrives. Upon arrival, the queen of Rapey King tells Rapey King that she fed him his children. Not true. To which Rapey King responds by throwing the queen and all her accomplices into the fire that they had made for Talia. The cook brings back Sun and Moon, Talia's children, and everyone rejoices, and Rapey King marries Talia. The end.
He's the real winner here.
So
apparently.
this is really the entrance to Jeffrey Dahmer. Necrophilia, cannibalism.
Only
This is
one
where he
has-
got
Yeah.
This
his
one
starting.
has a happy ending for the kids because they're alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talia
they're
married
with their rapey dad.
Rapist.
Rapey dad. Rapey dad.
Violator.
Yep.
Well, that's lovely.
Yeah.
That's not exactly how I remember it.
No.
Not at all.
No.
Yeah, it's so interesting. In Maleficent, the live action, you said you liked it.
Yeah.
Over there. Isn't the whole thing they're trying to say now that she was in love with the king at some point?
Yeah, and then the king stabbed her in the back. Well, he cut her wings off because she was a fairy.
Right.
And
The
then
fact
he
that this
cut her
story
wings off.
has been told and then changed slightly and retold
Yeah.
kind of makes it disturbing to me. Just
Well,
a tad.
Aurora in the Disney version has a awesome pink and blue dress. I was obsessed with that dress as a kid, and I loved the scene when all the three fairies are in the little
Got in a
cottage with
fight.
her and they're fighting over the color of the dress, the pink versus blue, and they're making a cake for her birthday. And for some reason, I was enamored with that scene as a kid. And I used to love when they prop the broomstick up against the cake and they're
My-
trying to...
My favorite part of that is when they say fold the egg into the batter.
Yes,
and she folds an actual egg into the
presses
batter.
in, and you hear the eggshell crack. For some reason, maybe that is what spurred my love for baking, because I feel like
Maybe.
that was a formidable moment in my life.
When did that movie come out?
19...
Either when I was really young or before I was born.
Sleeping Beauty?
1995 maybe?
No way. It must have been earlier than that.
I think earlier.
I don't want to say it was like the 70s.
No, not
No,
that
not
early.
the 70s.
No,
Maybe the
definitely
80s,
not that early.
like the late 80s at
I
least.
don't know. I
or
can't
at most.
remember. But I loved that movie so much.
Well, in a weird turn of events, stories that people love, this version was collected by a wonderful Charles Perrault in Histories aux Contes du Temps Passé in 1697 and was then later collected and printed by the Brothers Grimm. The Brothers Grimm version was known as Little Briar Rose.
Oh, Briar Rose.
And was featured in their
love that
collection
name.
in 1812. Their version ends when the prince arrives to wake Sleeping Beauty, named Rosamund. Perrault's version included a part 2, which the Grimm brothers chose to omit. So they chose to leave it out. Now, per the Wikipedia, the brothers considered rejecting the story on the grounds that it was derived from Perrault's version. But the presence of the Björnhild tale convinced them to include it as an authentically German tale. So it's not really a German tale, it's Italian. But they
Italian.
decided to
Okay.
include it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So now their decision specifically is very notable in the fact that because in none of the Teutonic myths meaning the poetic and prose Eddas or Volsunga saga, all their sleepers, Sleeping Beauty, awakened with a kiss, a fact Jacob Grimm would have known since he wrote an encyclopedic volume on German mythology. So very notable that they included this. The Brothers Grimm version of Sleeping Beauty is the only known German variant of the tale, and instead of fairies, these women, they're not fairies, they're wise women.
That fold
Like the Bible.
eggs into a cake
Yes.
with the
Actual
shells
eggs.
on
Yeah,
them.
that's why you cook, right? You just kind of throw everything in, the packaging, the shells,
Yeah.
leftover stuff, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So the Brothers Grimm also included in the first edition of their tales a fragmentary fairy tale, quote unquote, the evil mother-in-law. This story begins with the heroine, a married mother of 2 children, and her mother-in-law who attempts to eat her and the children.
There's a lot of cannibalism in
A
the
lot.
Grimm fairy
Yeah.
tales.
Now, the heroine suggests in this particular story that an animal be substituted in the dish, and the story ends with the heroine's worry that she cannot keep her children from crying and getting the mother-in-law's attention. So, obviously, typical,
Right.
typical story ending.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So, what do you guys think?
That's dark.
Good old weird rapey tale.
Yeah.
You know, I much prefer the Disney version. You know, that pink and blue dress. It ends with them ballroom dancing. You know, her dad kind of awesome in that movie. Kind of. Well, actually, now that I think about it.
No.
Well, she pricks her finger on the end of a spinning
A
wheel,
spinning
right? Or like
Needle,
needle,
whatever.
spindle.
Spindle.
And this one was
Spindle.
a flax seed, or I keep saying flax seed.
Flax.
Flax needle.
Flax needle.
Or flax,
Like-
like a piece.
I think it's like
pincher.
wheat.
So did
like
the
wheat.
baby spit it out? Or did it swallow it?
Eat it.
There's
See,
a loop.
I think the Grimm's Sleeping Beauty is like the most memorable Grimm's fairy tale. Just in my opinion, like that's the one I think of when I first think of Grimm's. I don't know why. Maybe because it's so dark. But it's like the thing I think of when I hear Grimm's.
Well, we've got quite a wonderful story to cover next.
Ah.
Oh boy.
Snow White. This one is wonderful. It's my favorite. Just kidding. It's not my favorite. So Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was published by Brothers Grimm in their collection of Grimm's fairy tales in 1812, numbered as tale number 53. Originally titled Schneezenwitten, its final revision came in 1854. In the 1812 version, the queen wants a baby and pricks her finger with a needle. There's a lot of needle pricking, a lot
like
of heroin
Sleeping
use.
Beauty.
A lot of heroin use in Matthew's.
Yes.
Causing 3 drops of blood to fall on the white snow of her windowsill. She says, "Oh, how I wish that I had a daughter that had skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony."
What a terrifying looking child that must
What a
be.
terrifying sounding woman. I agree. The queen gives birth to a daughter whom she names Snow White, because, of course, why wouldn't she? In later's telling, the queen dies in childbirth, but not in the original. In the original, she becomes and behaves much like the stepmother does in the 1854 version of the tale. Now, a year later, Snow White's father, and I have to play some music for this just to set the tone. A year later, Snow White's father, the king, marries again. His new wife is a very beautiful but also vain and wicked woman who practices witchcraft, as most women do. The new queen possesses a magic mirror, which she asks every morning, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" When Snow White is 7 years old, her fairness surpasses that of her stepmother. When the queen asks her mirror, it tells her that Snow White is the fairest. Now, the queen's heart turns against Snow White, and she begins to hate her more and more as time goes on. The angry queen orders a huntsman to take Snow White into the forest and kill her. And as proof that Snow White is dead, the queen also wants him to return with her heart, which she will consume in order to become immortal.
They skipped that part in Disney.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the huntsman can't kill Snow White and lets her go per her begging him. Snow White lives in the forest with a bunch of short dwarfs after breaking into their home and eating their stuff. They take pity on her because she is hot as fuck and tell her that she can be their housemaid.
Wait, how old is she?
I don't know, but
Well,
by the...
I know in like the original, she was only like 12.
I think in Disney she's supposed to be 14.
Well, per the very authentic folklore music, this is actually a song from that time. So appropriate. I'm
But-
not just making jokes.
Can you imagine a 7-year-old being hotter than you? Like, that's just sad.
Are we really going to go down that path?
It's not
Okay,
even-
well then let me go down another path. You know how the Mandela effect?
yeah.
In all of the things, it says mirror, mirror on the wall, but it actually says magic mirror.
yeah, I just noticed that.
Yeah.
Magic mirror.
Most people think it says mirror, mirror, but it doesn't.
It's because we're in two separate realities that have collided because the Hadron Collider actually was faulty when they decided to run it. Large boson Hadron Collider. And we are now living in two different realities in which people have grown up thinking that the Berenstain Bears is Berenstain Bears, and that Fruit of the Loom doesn't have a brown basket behind it.
Okay.
Or does.
A cornucopia, you mean?
Who knows? Yes, I am not cultured. Thank you, Sloth.
You're welcome.
Back to the story. The queen discovers that Snow White isn't dead, and is furious when she learns that Snow White used her wits to fake her death and decides to kill the girl herself. Now, in a turn of me, myself, and I syndrome, first she appears at the dwarf's cottage, disguised as an old peddler, and offers Snow White colorful, silky, laced bodices as a present. One, of course, would offer that to a child. The queen laces her up so tightly that Snow White faints. The dwarves save her, though. The queen then dresses up as a comb seller, which existed, and convinces Snow White to take a beautiful comb as a present. She strokes Snow White's hair with the poisoned comb. The girl is overcome by the poison from the comb, but she again is revived by the dwarfs, who by this time have a very intimate relationship with her. And they remove the comb from her hair. And finally, the queen dresses up as a farmer's wife and convinces Snow White to eat a poisoned apple. Snow White falls into a coma, appearing to be dead, to which the queen celebrates. The dwarves can't awaken her, so they place her in a glass casket, something readily available at the time, especially to dwarves.
Yes, what else would they do?
Very fancy.
I mean,
schmancy.
can you imagine not doing a glass casket? Like,
They could eat her.
I mean,
They could just
that-
throw her
yeah.
in a pit and throw some dirt on her.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works.
So, a strange turn of events occurs. A prince discovers her, takes pity, and decides to return her to her father's castle, which is a proper burial place. During transport, one of the prince's servants trips, dislodging a piece of the poisoned apple from Snow White's throat, which revives her. The prince is overjoyed, and as one does, proposes to Snow White, and as one also does, upon just meeting him, she accepts.
Like, did they even talk or anything, or did he just?
She was dead, no.
She just woke
She was
up
dead.
and he was on his knee.
Yep. Marry me. And she was like, I'm a kid. And he was like, okay. And she was like,
That's
yes. Yeah. It was great. Now, the queen, not to be outdone by the storytelling of the author, decides to crash the wedding after discovering that she has, once again, failed to murder. A lot harder than you think it is. And the prince punishes her by forcing her to wear a pair of red-hot iron slippers and to dance in them until she drops dead. And that is the end.
That was the beginning of what's that? Footloose.
Fiddler on the Roof.
I thought you guys were going to say that was the beginning of the Drop It Like It's Hot music video.
Drop
but-
it like it's hot.
You know what's interesting about this is, I mean, this wasn't that far off from how the movie goes.
No, this one was actually by Grimm standards. This is a good one.
Yeah,
Like pretty, almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
except
no
for like the true love kiss.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting about the Disney movie that I just remembered? Apparently,
Nothing.
the ending, you know, when True Love's kiss, he wakes her up and they're like, she's on the horse and he's leading the horse. And it shows them going and there's a castle in the distance going right over your head. You don't know what I'm talking about? Well, there's a castle in the distance and they show it so it looks like it's in the clouds. And some speculate that the ending of the movie is supposed to be her actually dying.
I do remember this. We saw this in theaters. I saw that. Yes, I remember that particular moment.
But yeah, I mean, that's a lot more easy to swallow than Sleeping Beauty was.
Well, in the
Just wait.
cartoon Snow White, doesn't the evil queen like get
Struck by lightning.
like hit with a boulder?
Yeah, I think he. Or
Oh,
she
the
works-
lightning. No, the lightning strikes
And then,
the
like-
boulder. Doesn't the boulder fall down?
I think it falls
like
on her.
She falls off a cliff or something, and like
That
the
movie
dwarves
scared me so bad as a
it was
kid.
terrifying.
I used to freak out, like when Snow White's running through the forest before she gets to the dwarf's house,
Or when the evil queen's like turning into the
she's in her dungeon and
she's like turning into the old lady.
double toilet and trouble down there, and
that I literally could not watch that when I was a kid. But I could read Grimm fairy tales. I just couldn't watch Disney Snow White.
But we made this so digestible for children.
I'm out of my depth. This is not.
It's all right.
This is not my cup of tea. Speaking of stories, cartoons specifically that were impactful as a child, Fox and the Hound messed me up. Messed me up real bad.
That and Dumbo, I cry every time I watch it.
I still cry. I showed it to her
too.
like a year ago, and I wept.
And I fell asleep
when when she gives the fox away. Dear God, they play that music with the harmonica and he like the over. I knew I would never see the old lady again who loved me as a fox, and I'm just sitting there, and Jen Beowulf, whatever her name is asleep. It happens. We do a different podcast.
No one's
it's a
gonna
history
know
podcast.
my actual name.
Yeah, where you're the sloth.
Yes.
Why would you?
No one's gonna know my name.
Yeah, you're the sloth.
But I watched Dumbo a couple months ago.
That one's a little.
I cannot get past the first part of when the mom gets put away into the cage and he can't see the mom. And
they have that music, that stupid
oh my
music
gosh,
play.
I'm gonna cry right now.
Stupid music play. Yeah.
I didn't get into Dumbo or Fox and the Hound. I was all Disney princesses.
Fox and the Hound is Disney.
But it's not a
a Disney
princess.
princess.
Who cares about princesses?
She does.
We're equal opportunity here.
My favorite though was actually not. She's technically not a princess, but
Let me
she's.
guess.
Anastasia.
That's not Disney.
Oh.
That's DreamWorks.
Favorite Disney princess.
That's a
Wait
great.
second, wait
That's
a
a
second,
great.
Wait a second.
Thumbelina.
No, that's
Wait.
not Disney either.
Wait. Favorite Disney princess, and she's technically not a Disney princess.
Well, they keep her like they advertise her like that, but she's not a princess. But she's my favorite.
Belle.
No, Belle's a princess.
No,
I love
she
Belle
isn't.
though.
Yeah, she is.
Technically, she marries the prince.
Yeah, she's a princess. I should know this.
Like, she's not a princess, but she definitely, like, they advertise her in all the Disney princess merch and stuff. I can't believe you don't know.
Jasmine?
Yes.
Mulan.
Oh,
Yeah, Mulan. Yeah, I was
Mulan.
going to jump to that, and I was like, but she marries the prince guy.
She doesn't marry a prince.
No, he's just
Oh,
Li
the
Shang's
leader.
a
He's
military dude.
Yeah.
He's also my favorite prince, and he's not even a prince.
Yeah.
That was when I started liking barrel-chested men. Okay.
And look what you got.
Adam Driver.
No.
Yeah. So obviously we have covered Cinderella, we've covered Sleeping Beauty, we have covered Snow White. Now we're going to cover one that is not necessarily a Grimm's fairy tale. So next episode we're going to have a few different ones. We'll probably include some more Grimm's ones because these are very interesting. But this one in particular is probably one of the strangest stories I have ever heard, and also one of the oddest Disney movies I've ever seen. The Adventures of Pinocchio. When I was in middle school, all of my friends would refer to it as The Adventures of Pinocchio. Was written by Italian author Carlo Collodi and published in a serial form under the title The Story of a Puppet. In one of the earliest Italian weekly magazines for children, starting on July 7th, 1881. In February of 1883, the story was published into a single book. A carpenter named Master Antonio, a.k.a. referred to as Master Cherry, not sure why, finds a block of wood to carve into a leg for his table. Upon beginning to carve, the leg cries out, and Master Cherry, a man known for pushing his problems onto a less fortunate people, gives the talking log to his extremely poor neighbor, Geppetto, who planned to make a living as a puppeteer.
Okay.
Geppetto carves the block of wood into a boy and names him Pinocchio. And once his nose has been carved, it begins to grow with his bad behavior.
It just sounds like a innuendo or something.
Wait.
Imagery.
So Master Antonio said the wood began to cry out, but Geppetto had no problem carving it into a boy?
Because he wanted his puppet to talk.
Don't ask too many questions, okay?
I mean, was it crying out the whole time?
I will tell you right now, actually ask the questions, but there are no answers. I read this entire story from start to finish today.
Messed up.
Don't understand it. Don't understand it at all. I'm not even sure how it became popular, to be completely honest with you. Very imaginative.
The entire Disney movie felt like a fever dream. I literally can't remember an actual thing except for that weird
the
world
donkey
and
part.
then the donkey part.
Yeah, it traumatized me.
That's the only part I remember.
Yeah,
Where bad boys go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Neverland or whatever it is.
Before Pinocchio was even completed, he was already a douchebag. And the puppet proceeded to kick Geppetto after his feet were fully carved. Now, Geppetto taught him to walk. And Pinocchio, after learning to walk, decided to run away to town, because that's what you do, only to be caught by the Italian police officer, or a few of them, who assumed that Pinocchio was not treated very well and abused. But this is a wood boy, by the way. This is a puppet.
Right.
It's a puppet.
Okay.
This is a self-aware puppet.
And the police are like, this poor, abused puppet.
So they imprisoned Geppetto without any questions.
Okay.
Kind of similar to another organization that exists.
Sounds like Italian police. Just kidding. Italian police. Love ya.
Right. Now, Pinocchio decides to return home. He's alone because he just got his dad, or creator, or weird ethical dilemma there. Weird ethical dilemma there. He's in jail. Geppetto's in jail. And while trying to find something suitable for a block of boywood human to eat, he comes across a talking cricket who has lived in the house for over a century. Over a century. A cricket.
I don't think crickets live that long.
They
Don't they
don't.
only live like a week or something?
Longer than that, but yeah, basically the same. And this cricket, who's lived over a century, warns Pinocchio of the perils of disobedience and hedonism, because that's exactly what a human would know about. Pinocchio responds accordingly in retaliation by throwing a hammer at the cricket, accidentally killing him.
Okay.
Well, there's the end of Jiminy Cricket.
Jiminy Cricket did not exist.
No.
He dies. But he does
got killed
exist.
right away.
Because this universe makes no sense. This is a very strange universe. Ever the moron, Pinocchio leaves the house to find food, asking neighbors for something to eat. They think he's a hooligan and pour buckets of water on his head.
Oh my god.
Wet and cold, he returns home to sleep on the stove. In my notes, it said next to the stove. No, he slept on the stove. Only to wake up with burned feet the next day. Now, Pinocchio eventually goes to school after Geppetto gets let go from the police and fixes his feet. And Geppetto, the enabling dad with no backbone, sells his only coat for a school book for Pinocchio. I don't know what type of school book. I'm not even sure if there were multiple types of classes at this point in time. But Pinocchio gets a school book, and Geppetto gets nothing.
If he was my kid,
I would have thrown him into the fire.
I was going to say, I would have thrown him out.
He's a
I don't care.
puppet.
I would
I
have
don't care.
Throw him in the dumpster.
that
Yeah.
demonic little wood boy.
It's like Annabelle.
I was going to say, it's like Annabelle.
100%.
You put that in the dumpster and you roll that right into the
Yeah.
ocean.
This is why I don't understand
This
that
is
movie.
the Kraken's problem now. Kraken.
Kraken.
Kraken. I meant
What the heck is a kraken?
Monstro, the whale.
Kraken's problem now. Kraken.
Whatever.
Well, anyway, yeah, I don't understand Annabelle. They should just throw the thing into the fire.
I was going to like
They
chop it
did.
into
They
pieces.
tried. You
Easy.
missed it.
I've seen the whole thing. I
You
fell
fell
asleep.
because
No, I saw it again. We
she's
watched it again.
possessed. And so even if you get rid of the doll, it'll go into another thing.
Now, Geppetto's getting the short end of the stick here, literally, from Pinocchio. Now, Pinocchio continues to get himself into trouble, and he comes across the Great Marionette Theater, which he chose to sell his school book for a ticket. Wow. Something that his beloved Geppetto only was able to get by selling his only coat. So,
Geppetto.
now, two puppets somehow recognize Pinocchio, I'm not sure how, from his prostitute days. And the puppet master gets really mad and decides to use Pinocchio as firewood again.
Back up.
No, I added that.
Oh,
Yeah, no,
I was like, what?
Yeah, Pinocchio, he was not a prostituted.
Oh my God. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Some of these stories.
A sentient block of wood that was also a prostitute. That's pretty funny. Now, obviously, throwing Pinocchio into the fire would be a suitable and appropriate end for a wood demon, but that does not happen because Pinocchio instead changes the puppet master's mind with a bout of victim mentality and explains that Geppetto is really poor and dumb, and so the puppet master gives him 5 gold pieces to give to Geppetto because he takes pity on Geppetto.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah,
Very
sure.
sweet.
Now, on his way home, yet again, Pinocchio exhibits his intelligence by falling prey to the wiles of a fox and a cat, both of which who convince him to plant his coins in the field of miracles outside of the city of Catchfools in the land of barn owls, resulting in a tree of gold coins.
There was a lot of things said just now that I'm having a
None of
hard
it was
time.
English.
The
Planting
the
a
field
tree.
of miracles in this land of barn owls?
Yes.
Sounds like a place.
actually have fallen victim to planting something, thinking it'll turn into a tree. Beowulf told me when I was younger that if I planted a rib bone, that it would grow a cow. And so now at one of our old houses, there's a rib bone in our yard.
Let's just hope it's for an actual...
Was I there?
No.
Listen,
was
this
before
young
you were
child
around.
was dumb.
I was very dumb. I was very, very dumb.
This tree, if you plant a rib bone, it'll grow a cow.
Yeah.
What do you think was going to happen? A cow is going to come out of the soil?
Yep. Maybe
Oh,
a cow egg.
It's very sweet. You were a very sweet child, and you weren't stupid.
I was a little dumb. Just a
You
little.
did plant a rib
I
bone.
did, yeah.
Well, your self-awareness is never ending, which is great. So, back to Pinocchio. Now, this cat and this fox, this self-aware, sentient cat and fox, decide to take Pinocchio to an inn, and Pinocchio finds himself paying for the cat and fox's food, after which they promptly abandon Pinocchio, but tell him to meet them at the Field of Miracles the next morning. Pinocchio starts his trek, but the ghost of the wrongly killed cricket appears, ordering him to go home to give his gold to his papa.
Papa.
All right.
Now, Pinocchio wisely ignores this
So
talking
wise.
demon bug. He ignores it. This demon ghost bug. The fox and the cat then disguise themselves and attempt to rob Pinocchio on his way to play baseball with Kevin Costner in the Field of Miracles, also known as the Field of Dreams. And Pinocchio puts the coins in his mouth after brutally biting off the cat's paw.
Oh, wow.
Pinocchio then escapes to a White House, not the White House, but a White House.
Are you sure?
Maybe it's the same. And talks to a dead fairy with turquoise hair. It's the same. Waiting for a hearse. And then gets hanged in a tree by the cat and fox.
So the cat made it without the paws.
Yeah, we only had 3.
Oh, that's a tragedy for the cat.
Yeah.
Is it? Now, both the cat and the fox get bored waiting for Pinocchio, a totally self-aware, sentient, human boy wood demon, to suffocate to death.
I don't think he would suffocate.
No.
He's wood.
So they leave him
Just hanging?
hanging.
Okay.
This fairy with blue hair saves Pinocchio, and 3 animal doctor hybrids show up, providing an accurate diagnosis as to, what happened to him, as most animal doctors do. Not human doctors, animal doctors. These are animals.
And are
Animals who are
doctors.
doctors, who went to an accredited university, got a doctorate in medicine, and now are diagnosing Pinocchio.
Right.
And as much of the human population of human doctors do, they can't figure out whether Pinocchio is alive or dead. So they hold a meeting of the minds. And the third doctor, the ghost of the wrongly killed cricket.
So he got a doctorate
a
while he
doctor?
was dead? Or while he was
Right.
alive?
Okay.
No one knows.
Okay.
This third doctor, this ghost demon cricket doctor, murdered by Pinocchio, says that Pinocchio is fine, but has been a total douchebag to his dad. Paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Pinocchio then lies to the fairy who saved his life, resulting in his nose growing, which in turn is then whittled down by some woodpeckers at the request of the fairy, so she helps him lie. She also invites him and Geppetto to live with her in the forest.
I
So she's-
totally forgot that his nose grew with all of this information.
Yeah.
I completely
Still has a
forgot.
growing nose.
This
Yes,
is
got
meth energy storytelling.
Yes.
Now, the cat and fox return, convincing dumb old Pinocchio to go back to the Field of Dreams with Kevin Costner and plant his gold coins to become better at baseball and to make more money, which he agrees to. He buries his coins and then is robbed by the cat and fox because Pinocchio is an imbecile.
Surprising.
Now, Pinocchio goes and decides to report his crime to a judge who also happens to be a gorilla.
Oh, wow.
Take from that what you will.
Okay. I mean,
Now-
this is a talking wooden puppet.
The
Yeah.
rules of this universe make no sense.
Okay.
Now, this judge gorilla human hybrid decides to sentence Pinocchio to 4 months for the crime of foolishness. Then the king, at the time, in this universe, wins a war, decides to release all criminals, and Pinocchio is on his way.
Wow, very
Okay.
progressive.
The life Pinocchio has lived is almost as crazy as L. Ron Hubbard's.
Almost.
Shout out Happy. Now, he ends up stealing some farmer's grapes, getting caught, and then is forced to guard the chicken coop for the farmer, resulting in him foiling an evil weasel's plan to steal some chickens. And thus, he gets freed again. They just keep letting him go.
Wow.
He returns to the fairy in the forest who has died of sorrow, per her gravestone.
Wow.
Official.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm not making this up. This is the story. This is really the story. A pigeon gives Pinocchio a ride to the seashore where he finds Geppetto sailing in a boat. But before getting to Geppetto, because Pinocchio, a child who just learned to swim and who is made of wood, decides to try and swim to him, he sees Geppetto get swallowed by the terrible dogfish.
AKA Monstro.
Well, that was a whale.
Right.
Dogfish,
Dogfish
is the
is not a
opposite of
whale.
a catfish.
Yeah,
Oh.
Yes.
it's a
Okay.
joke.
Ah.
Now, Pinocchio chooses to do nothing about this and goes to the island of Busy Bees and works as a slave.
Oh, that's
Legitimately, yeah. He stumbles upon the fairy, who isn't dead, but should be because she's old, and she convinces him to invest in himself, go to school, take out school loans in a lifetime of debt, so he can become a real boy. And he agrees.
wow.
No one's a real boy until they get a college degree.
Or have debt.
Or have debt. And now Pinocchio does well in school, and the fairy promises to make him a real boy the next day, throwing him a party. That sentence is not meant to be an innuendo, but it sure as hell comes off as one. He meets his friend Candlewick, also a real name, and they decide to go to Toyland for 5 months. Not sure what 5 months and the specific nature of that time
Right.
really means, but there's a time frame here.
Okay.
Yes.
And they end up working for the coachman. Candlewick and Pinocchio then develop donkey ears because they have jackass fever due to not studying.
So in the Disney movie, we're not even halfway through.
I'm not. We're getting there.
Wow.
Pinocchio
It's a
then
long
hurts
story.
himself working for the ringmaster who works for the coachman, and the ringmaster chooses to sell him to a man who wants to skin him and make him into a drum because
How
at
would
this
you
time
skin wood?
he's a donkey now.
Oh, yeah.
Remember? Yeah. So the man who purchased Pinocchio, the donkey, who is not a donkey but really a boy made of wood, who's not a real boy but actually just a plank of wood who has the ability
Right.
to feel and move anatomically and be self-aware.
Swim.
I think is he self-aware? We haven't established that yet. But Pinocchio, this boy wood man donkey hybrid slave, is bought by this man, and the man, in an attempt to try and make him into skin for a drum, throws him into the ocean to drown him. But instead, Pinocchio comes back as a marionette, as a puppet,
Oh.
making Pinocchio a puppet once again.
Okay.
Are you keeping up with me?
No.
I mean,
I'm not keeping up with me, so it's okay. That makes three
there's
of us.
a lot that's going on in the short life of a puppet.
Yes.
Puppet.
Is he a puppet, though? Now, Pinocchio swims out to sea and is eaten by the very same dogfish that has eaten Geppetto.
So he's reconnected with daddy.
He finds his daddy in the stomach of the dogfish inside, and obviously Geppetto's had to exist at that time inside the dogfish, and he's made a very successful career as a day trader. They escape the dogfish with the help of a self-aware tuna, and Pinocchio ends up giving the tuna a kiss in thanks, and then Pinocchio and Geppetto leave to find a place to stay. They come across the cat and the fox.
A three-legged cat.
Three-legged cat and that dirty rotten fox, who are now impoverished and living as TikTokers in Los Angeles. The cat and the fox plead for money, but Pinocchio says no, and that their misfortunes have served them right for their wickedness, because Pinocchio is a real one.
Such a good guy.
He is. He can say that. He has a pedestal that he has developed from being so good that he can now talk down to the fox and the cat over.
Right.
Now, Geppetto and Pinocchio then arrive at the talking cricket's home. The ghost cricket, who's a doctor.
Right, yeah.
It's a mini home,
Got it.
which they then agree to live with him.
How would they live in a cricket's home?
This cricket has 2,000 square feet.
He's a doctor,
guess.
very well off.
Okay.
Pinocchio ends up working for farmer Giangio,
For Big Pharma.
Big Pharma. He starts working for Pfizer
Yeah.
and recognizes the farmer's dying donkey as his friend Candlewick.
Oh, Candlewick never got saved.
Never got saved.
So sad.
After long months of working for the farmer and supporting the ailing Geppetto, because he's old AF as now, Pinocchio goes to town with the 40 pennies he has saved to buy himself a new suit.
40 pennies.
40 pennies. Inflation's wild. He discovers that the fairy is ill and is in need of money. That night, he dreams that he is visited by the fairy, who kisses him. This is a child. When he wakes up, he is a real boy.
Oh, I'm sure
At
he
last.
is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure he is.
Still has some... I'm not
older,
going to say it.
Older fairy.
So this is a coming of age tale.
I bet it is.
Puberty.
Yeah.
He still had...
I bet he did.
Good.
His nose got
still
longer
had
and
some
longer.
wood.
Now, the former puppet body lies lifeless on a chair. So there's a puppet
So
body.
he, shed his
disembodied.
skin?
Yeah, he disembodied.
Oh, like a
himself.
snake.
Yeah, he is a snake. Pinocchio is a snake. That's the
right.
narrative of the story.
Yeah.
It's the message of the story. Fortunately, Pinocchio finds that the fairy has left him a new suit, boots, and a bag, in which he thinks are the 40 pennies that he originally gave to her. It's never validated, so that bag could also include methamphetamines. Instead, the boy is shocked to find 40 freshly minted gold coins. I lied, and you believe me. Ha ha ha. Geppetto also returns to health. And that's the end.
What's the moral of this story? A fairy will come and give you everything you wanted and
As long
turn
as
you into
you're
a real man one
an
day.
innocent little boy who asks nicely.
No matter how...
Some beautiful
Bad
woman will
you
come
are.
to you in your dreams and fix all your problems.
No matter how
And
horrible
save
you
your
were in
dad
life.
from dying.
Yes.
That's the moral of the story, folks. Yeah, that's not quite how the movie went. But I don't remember being too fond of Pinocchio Disney-wise either.
I don't even remember.
It wasn't my favorite movie.
I, as a kid, enjoyed that movie because it was so crazy.
It was
Like
like
a Pleasure Island's what you were talking about, by the
yeah,
way.
not
That's-
Neverland.
Yeah, that's Peter Pan.
Is there a
But-
difference?
No.
Well, Pleasure Island, they have like cigars, right?
And no one ever ages. What do they do all that time?
Oh, I don't remember. It's
Yeah,
been a
no one
long
knows.
time.
No one knows. It's never
Well, that was a
elaborated.
lot though, because
That was.
I don't know what the plot was really.
I don't either.
Crackhead energy.
I tried to follow along, but all that tells me is any writer can basically throw up on a page, and you've got the right marketing team, and Grimm's Fairy Tales is on your side.
Well,
You
Grimm's
can do
wasn't. This isn't
anything.
a Grimm story.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like,
Well, yeah.
you keep the marketing up,
If you have
Very
Disney on your
interesting.
side, you can do anything.
right? Well, that was a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm still stuck on the very, very beginning where the one guy just gave him a piece of wood that was yelling out when he was carving into it.
Yeah, why did Geppetto not care?
What's
that
the origin story of this wood?
No one knows.
Where did it come from?
maybe
What forest was this tree from?
Why
maybe
did
an
it get
actual
hard?
person?
That is the question.
What did you just say?
Why did it get hard? No one knows.
No one knows.
What powers caused his nose to grow?
Well, right. And like this was a piece of wood to make a table leg. How large is this piece of wood to make a whole boy out of it?
Maybe he was a miniature.
It was like he's
He
like
was-
as big as
Yeah.
You know,
his
a table.
That
yeah.
I mean,
hand.
Table
well,
leg.
well, he did.
Well, I know, but if it's like a tiny, like you need limbs.
Well,
and you
he
need-
rode a bird to the ocean.
Oh my gosh.
So how big could he be?
He wasn't that big.
Yeah, like Barbie sized.
I don't know. That's very. But
like
I mean,
a
he could
Ken doll.
live. He could live in a cricket's house.
Well, so could Geppetto, though.
Oh, my
Maybe
brain
Geppetto was just a very
hurts.
small
This
person.
was like so chaotic.
Yeah, so this was meant to be a spoopy season episode, and it's just more of just a disturbing episode.
Oh my gosh, I'm spooked out. I'm very disturbed by this man's writings.
yeah.
Like,
I'm just confused.
did you think he had brandy while he was writing this?
I thought you were going
I
to say
think-
brain damage. I said yes.
maybe.
Yes, he did.
brandy.
I
don't know.
I think something
brain
a little
damage.
more stronger than brandy.
Like,
Brain damage.
just jet fuel, alcohol. Yeah, no, that was a lot. That was a lot. But at least he got his 40 freshly minted
Gold coins.
gold coins.
Gold coins.
So it's just
And
a
by
happy
today's
ending.
standard, that is it's
$1.
Like, no, that 40 gold coins is like 90 grand.
Dang, you know what? I do appreciate a happy ending though, so that's nice.
Is it a happy ending?
Well, his Geppetto's.
He was made into a real boy
The
by
poor
a
cricket.
woman.
Yeah, it's a happy ending.
He's a boy.
But he
Yeah.
still had some wood.
He's gonna have to grow up at some point.
I don't think he will.
Kevin Spacey would agree with your analysis.
Oh boy.
Ew.
Well,
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I mean, that kind of wraps it up. This part, we're going to have a part 2. We're going to talk about a few different other stories.
And
Probably
maybe I'll have a face reveal.
Well, you know what? I'm not sure how long it recorded, so we'll see. It could have just turned off. Knock on wood. The funs and joys of recording. But yeah, I think the best possible thing that we can do is probably stop and start the next episode. We're going to record immediately afterwards.
for part 2.
Part 2, we're going to probably talk about Beauty and the Beast, probably Little Mermaid, and there's a few other ones.
But while you wait for that next episode, I highly recommend Belle on, is it HBO?
I think you just get on Apple TV.
Or you could just get it on Apple TV. It is an anime, so if you're like, what anime? Do not be disturbed. It's actually fantastic, and the music is great.
What anime?
What anime?
Well, some people are just like, I would never watch anime. Well, this is a fantastic movie, and I highly recommend it. And the voice of the main character, Belle, is it Belle? That's her name, right? In the movie?
The character that she creates is Belle, but the main character's name is
Right.
Belle.
Okay. Well, regardless, you'll know it when you hear it. Okay. It's fantastic.
Well, that wraps up our episode. Hopefully this gave you some insight and some entertainment in relation to Grimm's fairy tales and other fairy tales that are also Grimm, but not necessarily produced or, collected by Grimm, sponsored by Grimm's Inc. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very interesting topic. There's a lot of very strange moral quandaries with these stories.
Yeah. Also makes me wonder if it's just a cultural thing of going back hundreds of years and what was deemed as like
Normal.
Yeah, children were working and
not even normal. I
boys
just
were getting
mean like what
turned
was
into real boys.
What was more commonly
7?
talked about in just commonplace areas among people, and what's now taboo.
We traded young girls for cattle.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you can remember. But yeah, on that note, that wraps up this episode. Keep an eye out for part 2. We will most likely be releasing this episode a week of Halloween, or maybe weekend prior, and then episode 2 on Halloween. So yeah, if you like what you hear, if you like what you saw, go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram and a subscription on YouTube. We come up with new episodes every week. And if you're asking yourself why, it's because we have some great things to talk about. Join the club. It's a good time. It's fun and dandy. 5-star review on Spotify and any major listening platform would also be greatly appreciated. But yeah, we'll go ahead and see you next time.